Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're here to do a comparison between the PlayStation VR2, the Meta Quest 2, and the Meta Quest Pro. Now, all of these devices that we have here all have their own different ways of being better than others. PlayStation VR2, and I'm excited to do this comparison to see exactly where this thing folds, because there's a lot of different things that these things are doing, different features that they each have that may be better for different people. And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you guys which one I recommend depending on what type of person you are and what you're actually looking for. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a recce is the gaming tech. Gaming tech is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
So let's start off this video by talking about the specs of each one. So for the PlayStation VR2,
it starts off with the fact that it has OLED technology, and the panel resolution is 2000 by 2040 per eye in HDR. And it also supports refresh rates of 90 Hz and 120 Hz, and the FOV is approximately 110 degrees. But there's also other things that the PlayStation VR2 offers that are unique to it. The adaptive trigger, so you can feel exactly, the pulls and the different guns that feel like we're all used to on the PlayStation 5 controller. It has the headset rumble as well, so you actually feel vibrations on the headset if something were to hit you, or you feel something crumbling on top of you like rain and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. And it also has advanced haptics in the actual controllers, just like the PlayStation 5 controller, just so you actually feel different things in the controller that really make you feel like you're involved, like pulling the back of the bow or stuff like that. That's really cool. And one of the other big things is eye tracking, and developers can use that for foveated rendering, so it only renders the full resolution on where you're looking, so you can have higher fidelity games. And also some of the games are doing unique things where you actually look at certain things and you can actually manipulate them by just looking at them.
and then of course we have the Meta Quest 2 and the specs that this thing has.
The type of display that they're using is LCD. And the panel resolution is going to be 1832 times 1920 per eye. And then the refresh rate is 60 Hz, 72 Hz, 90 Hz, and also 120 Hz for those rare games that actually support 120, so you don't really see that too often. And then the FOV is 89 degrees. And of course, one of the biggest extra things about the Quest 2 is the fact that it's completely wireless VR. So unlike the PSVR, where you have to have one cable plugged in to your PlayStation 5 and you need a console, of course here on the Quest 2, everything is all in the headset. You don't need an extra PC or anything, and it runs on a mobile processor and no cables or anything, and it's fully wireless.
And then we have the Meta Quest Pro with its specs.
It is also using LCD technology for the display, and the panel resolution is 1800 by 1920. The refresh rate on this is 72 Hz and 90 Hz, and the FOV on this one is 106 degrees horizontal and 96 degrees vertical, which is important to point out because the Quest 2 it has a little bit larger of an FOV horizontally on the Quest Pro, but then it's a little bit shorter on the vertical landscape. And the unique features that we have on the Quest Pro is it has pancake lenses, which are definitely the clearest lenses I've ever seen in VR, and they're fantastic. There's also the eye tracking on here. One of the downsides here, though, is that developers actually, of course, have to implement it, and there's not a lot of people with the Quest Pro, but the eye tracking is there, and it is really cool when it works in the social applications. There's also color pass-through, which is great for mixed reality applications, so color pass-through is not just black and white, like the Quest 2 and the PSVR2. Of course, it's also wireless VR, just like we talked about with the Quest 2, and it has the fantastic Pro controls that have cameras on them to do all the tracking in and of itself, and it also has face tracking, so it actually can see all your movements on your eyebrows and your facial expressions in all social applications. Now, when you take all of these specs into account, this is kind of where I land on each one. The PSVR2 is definitely a better headset than the Quest 2 when it comes to specs. It has higher resolution, it has OLED display technology, it has everything that you could want, and it has eye tracking, which helps create games. And then, of course, it has the fact that it's powered by PlayStation 5, so you'll be able to see much higher fidelity games on there with just having a PlayStation 5 console. However, on the Quest 2 side, of course, it's wireless VR, so you'll be able to move around freely without worrying about that single cable around you, but you'll be dealing with a mobile processor, so games are going to look nowhere near as good as they will on the PSVR 2. You could, of course, do wireless VR, PCVR streaming on the Quest 2, but that's a whole nother ballgame, but know that that's an available option. But we're comparing headset to headset here. The PSVR 2, in my opinion, is a way better headset than the Quest 2 because of all the specs that we just talked about, and I think it overall wins. When it comes to the Quest Pro versus the PSVR 2, that's where things get a little bit more interesting because the panel on the Quest Pro is definitely a clearer panel. The pancake lenses are definitely a much clearer panel when you're looking through them, and everything just looks really nice. So But on the flip side of that, the FOV is a lot smaller, so the FOV is going to be a lot nicer on the PlayStation VR2, which is going to make you feel more engrossed into there. Obviously, it has the higher fidelity graphics that we talked about that make it, and obviously you have that combination in there. It also has the color pass-through, which you could do mixed reality apps, which you can't do mixed reality apps at all on the PlayStation VR2. And it also has those Pro controllers that obviously track really, really well because they have cameras on them. So even though I love the Sense controllers of the PlayStation VR2, which I think are fantastic, they don't track as well as a Quest Pro, but they do have those haptics that I think elevate it overall, and I think the haptics are much better on there than they are on the Quest Pro controller. So I think for me, I'd rather use the Sense controllers because the importance of me is the immersion, and the immersion all relies on the haptic feedbacks inside those controllers and the adaptive triggers that really take gaming to a new level. And then, of course, the Quest Pro even has face tracking as well, which is pretty cool when you're playing social applications and stuff like that, because it actually could detect your face, see your mouth movements and sticking out your tongue and all that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool. But overall, I think when you're comparing gaming and specs in this category, the PSVR 2 wins, because obviously if you only care about gaming, those Sense controllers, the adaptive triggers and the haptic feedback and all that stuff is going to be fantastic. And the OLED display technology and the better colors and all that stuff that the OLED technology brings is fantastic. Even though the pancake lenses, I do give a better clarity on those than what the PSVR 2 is using. But overall, I would choose the PSVR 2 for gaming over the Quest Pro and the Quest 2 easily. The only thing that the Quest Pro would be for is for people who love social applications, and those specs of having facial tracking and all those kind of features in there are going to be great for social applications. And when you're just counting social applications, I would definitely choose the Quest Pro and its wireless platform.
So the next category we're going to talk about here is the comfort of wearing these headsets. Now you can see I'm a person who wears glasses and stuff like that, and the PSVR is really, really comfortable when you put this thing on. I mean, you literally just pull the back of the headset here, put your head in there, and boom, I am in VR. That's it. My headset is on, and this feels really, really good and really, really comfortable when I put that on, and it's really easy to come out. And it has all, you just push the back, you tighten it on the back when you need it tightened. It's got all the options sitting right there. It feels really, really comfortable. And what's really cool is, first of all, this material right here on the side is really comfortable as well, sitting on your cheeks and stuff. Also, what I really like on the PlayStation VR 2 compared to the Quest 2 is the fact that there's no light bleakage at all. And the same thing with the Quest Pro. Like, when you put this on, you're fully immersed. It blocks all light. It's the best headset I've worn when it comes to blocking light compared to these two here. I'm fully immersed. Everything is blacked out when I put this headset on. Covers all the nose gaps, all that stuff. There's no light bleakage from anywhere, which I really like. And then the headband is obviously fantastic. It's really comfortable to wear. It sits great on my head. And just like the PSVR 1, when I can think about that when I used to have that, this is just as comfortable as that, or even more so. And it's still the most comfortable headset I've ever worn. And the PSVR 2 retains that crown. When you compare it to the Quest 2 is obviously a lot more heavy on your head compared to the PlayStation VR 2, which is expected because obviously this is an all-in-one headset. You know, the PlayStation VR 2, you obviously have to plug in and stuff like that. So this one, obviously having the CPU on board, the GPU and all that stuff, is going to make this more top-heavy. So you're going to feel that weight on your head, so it's not going to feel as light and it's not going to feel as comfortable. And let's not talk about the head strap that this thing actually comes with, which I don't even have installed, because the head strap that the Quest 2 comes with is complete garbage. I immediately took that thing off me, and my wife hated it. It wasn't comfortable at all. Obviously, I work with Kiwi, and the straps on here are fantastic from Kiwi. They're really, really comfortable, and this is how the Quest always should have come. Instead of selling that extra accessory and stuff like that when they were selling the Elite strap that was breaking on people and stuff. But this is a much better headset with those straps on. But with the original strap, terrible. With this one, it's a much, much better and more comfortable headset, but it still weighs a lot more. And even when I put this headset on with glasses and stuff, it's definitely not as easy and comfortable as it is on the PSVR 2. I gotta like finagle my head in here to put that on. And then I still get light bleakage right down here. Like I'm looking right now, this is fully pressed on my face. And there's a little bit of light bleakage right here on my nose usually. But I can press it against my face really, really hard, and then that light bleakage is gone. If I go like that and press hard, then the light bleakage is completely gone also. So you could work around it, but it's definitely not as easy, as intuitive as the PlayStation VR 2 when it comes to that. But overall, I still find this comfortable. I don't wear this and think, oh my god, this is on my head and it's uncomfortable. I just think that it's, obviously, PSVR 2 is just a much more comfortable headset with the even weight distribution and all that kind of stuff, and ease of use of wearing glasses with it and all that kind of stuff. But overall, the Quest 2 is still comfortable, especially for the fact that everything is built into the headset. And then when we come to the Quest Pro here, this one is obviously really, really comfortable. I mean, obviously it's a lot thinner, as you guys are looking at here, as you would expect. And when you put this thing on with glasses, this is just as easy as the PSVR2 because there's nothing on the sides and stuff. It's really easy and all that kind of stuff because this is meant as a mixed reality headset. It's meant to not have anything on the side unless if you have the light blockers that it comes with, or you get the full gasket and stuff that I have over there. But putting this on is really easy with glasses because there's a giant opening there. So I don't even know if that's a fair comparison to the PSVR2, but it is really easy to put in and out. And I love the magnetic design that you can put on the side to put the full gasket on it that kind of just immediately attaches to it and then makes it really easy. And then it's almost like you're fully immersed, but unfortunately there's still that light bleakage from the nose area. No matter what I do, there's still the light bleakage with the extra accessory that you can get with the full gasket that kind of attaches on here. The light bleakage still comes through, so PSVR2 still wins in that category. But this was obviously more comfortable than the Quest 2 because it's a small form factor, even though everything is still built into here. It's obviously much thinner and things are more compact in here. It's easy to get in and out, especially if you're only using the side blockers and not the full gasket to block all the light. Really easy to get in and out, really easy to use. Overall, really, really comfortable compared to the Quest 2. So at the end of this, I would say the PSVR 2 is the most comfortable headset out of all of these, especially for full immersion with everything being blacked out and everything. The Quest Pro sits right alongside it and is really, really close, but it is a little bit more top heavy because everything is built in. And then the Quest 2 sits at the bottom for being, the least comfortable of the three, with obviously it being the heaviest and the original strap that it came with being not great until you upgrade it and all that kind of stuff. So that is how that breakdown happens in this category. Now, when it comes to ease of setup, of course, the Quest 2 and the Quest Pro are going to be the ones that win this category, and they're going to be tied for first place because, obviously, ease of setup, I mean, what people want when it comes to ease of setup is, hey, I come home, I want to play a game, I literally pick this up off my dock. My dock has it fully charged, ready to go, of course. Put this on, boom, I'm fully in VR. You click on a game, and I can be in a game within a minute and, be playing Beat Saber or whatever game I want to be playing on here. Ease of setup is obviously really, really easy on the Quest 2. And it's the same thing on the Quest Pro. This is always docked. It comes with the dock, which is even better than the Quest 2. So actually it might give a slight edge to the Quest Pro. Put the Quest 2 right underneath it just because it comes with the dock where the controllers sit on it and this sits on it. So it's always fully charged. You don't have to spend extra to get an accessory. Always fully charged and ready to go. You come home, you pull this out, boom, I'm in my headset and I'm easily playing. Don't have to turn anything else on or worry about anything. And I'm in VR, within 30 seconds. When it comes to the PSVR 2, it is a much better setup than it was in the PSVR 1 for you guys who don't remember all those. And I still have my PSVR 1 with that box that you had to connect all these HDMI cables to. It was a gigantic mess. Didn't work with HDR in the beginning, and then you had to upgrade that. It was just a real pain. So on the PSVR 2, this is a much more simple setup. It is literally one cable now. You literally plug it in to your actual PlayStation 5. And, obviously turn on your PlayStation 5 and then get that ready to go. Sync your controllers and all that kind of stuff. But it is not as easy as a setup as the other two that I just mentioned because, of course, you need to plug it in to PlayStation VR 2. You need to make sure your controllers are obviously charged all the time, where I feel like you do need to spend extra money as well if you want to make sure your controllers are always charged like I did and get a dock for this thing. That way the controllers are docked and ready to go so you don't have to worry about them ever being charged, which is exactly what I do. So it's a little bit more comparable to the other two that are always charged as well for me. But it is an additional accessory just like the Quest 2 and unlike the Quest Pro. So for me, obviously, this is not a hard setup. Obviously, if I come home and I want to play PSVR, I grab it off the shelf. My controllers will be fully charged. I sit down, I turn the PlayStation 5 on, wait for that to boot up, turn on the PlayStation VR headset here at the bottom, and then put it on and then get ready to go. So is it that much harder? Not really, obviously, but it is a couple of more extra steps than the other two. So of course the category is going to go to the Quest 2 and the Quest Pro. So the next category we got to talk about here is Immersion, of course. And Immersion is definitely going to be an interesting take because probably not going to be a surprise after talking about the specs or anything like that, but for gaming, PSVR 2 is going to win the Immersion category. I'll tell you guys right off the bat, and let me explain why. So, on top of the fact that we have the PlayStation VR headset that has Rumble. So, the PlayStation VR headset has a new feature that has not been seen on any other VR headset, and the Rumble is really cool. When I was playing NFL Era and stuff like that, I was getting tackled. I got hit there in the head, and I actually felt the Rumble and actually felt like I got tackled, which was really cool. When I was doing Kayak VR and it was raining, I actually felt it on top of me. That was also fantastic, something that you haven't seen in other headsets. So the headset Rumble is great. like I talked about, the FOV is a lot larger on here. It's 110 degrees compared to what the other two were. So you're going to see more in your field of view, and it's going to feel like you're more immersed into games. And it's definitely going to make you feel like you're actually there, which is a fantastic experience. Then there's also the eye tracking as well. And the eye tracking is really cool that you have in here because the immersion is going to bring you to that next level. You're going to just look at things and be able to do things like in Switchback VR, where it's going to tell you you can't blink, and you're going to be scared as crap because if you blink, something's going to jump at you. You know, there's all of these different things that are kind of going on in these games that are really going to push it to that next level, which I think is really, really cool. And then there's, of course, these Sense controllers with the adaptive triggers and stuff like that, where they have, you know, each gun feels differently, and each game is making these games feel differently depending on how you're shooting and how you're actually doing things, and the guns will feel different, and when you do a crossbow, it feels like you have a crossbow. And then there's the feedback inside the controllers themselves. It's not just regular rumble. Think about it like HD rumble, like it is on the Nintendo Switch, where you actually feel sensations that are kind of mimicking what you're actually seeing, and it works extremely well. If you use the PS5 controller, kind of think about it just like that, but for VR with these controllers, which is going to add immersion to all of these games that we're playing all the time. And of course, we can't forget about the OLED technology, where the colors and everything look fantastic in games on the PlayStation VR2, where it looks really, really good with the OLED colors and just the clarity of everything in there with these panels. So even though PlayStation VR is my number one in this category, my number two is definitely going to go to the Quest Pro. And the Quest Pro, you know, obviously is going to have its reasons on why it's here. I mean, you have the eye tracking on here, which is great. And it's going to have, you know, the facial tracking as well, which is going to be fantastic. And that's going to be really, really good. However, obviously, developers have to build these into the experience. And since the PlayStation VR has the ecosystem that is obviously everyone has a PlayStation 5 and everyone who has a PSVR2 is going to have access to that tracking. Right now, with the Quest 2 being, you know, still the sole thing that people are buying on the Quest platform, the MetaQuest Pro, with these features, we haven't really seen a lot of games take advantage of it yet because developers are not going to target the Quest Pro because obviously this isn't really a Quest headset for gaming. This is meant for businesses, is meant for high-end VR, which is why it's a lot more expensive than obviously the other ones are. And it's going to make it hard to recommend because even though it has the eye tracking and stuff, unless if it's for social applications like Horizon and stuff that they advertise, you're not going to see a lot of third-party developers take advantage of these features until the Quest 3, when maybe we get eye tracking in there. Maybe when facial tracking is on that. Because they're not going to waste their time on people who just have the Quest Pro because it's a small minority of people, and most of the people who have this are using it for other reasons besides gaming, so it makes it hard to actually recommend for that. But even if you take that to the side, the immersion level is still great in here because it has the color pass-through. It's really easy to put in and out. It has the option of, like, you know, having the full gasket if you want to. It's obviously, you know, easy to put on, in and out, more comfortable, a lot thinner and stuff like that. It has a bigger FOV horizontally than it does on the Quest Pro. It has the pancake lenses that we talked about before. So I think for full-on immersion and the better clarity with the pancake lenses and stuff, I would still always play Quest 2 games and Quest experiences on this as somebody who owns both, because it's still going to be a better experience and immersion level with the bigger FOV, with the pancake lenses, with the more comfortable headset than it would be on the Quest 2. So the Quest 2, of course, in this category comes last because of the fact that I just talked about with the immersion level of everything being, you know, the smaller FOV, with it not being as comfortable as the other two headsets. Even with buying a strap, I still think the other two are more comfortable. So it's obviously going to be last on this list, but by no means is a, you know, deal breaker in any way, and it's still really immersive VR. It's just not good as those two that we just compared to because of the reasons we all just mentioned. Now, even everything I just said, you got to remember that immersion is different for different people, and obviously the PlayStation VR2 does have a single cable that comes from it, and the MetaQuest 2 and the MetaQuest Pro do not have that, and you're going to obviously have wireless VR freedom, so that's going to make you more immersed into games because obviously you're not going to, you know, get tangled in a wire, and you're not going to have to worry about, oh, I know I'm in a game and I know I'm in VR because I always feel that cable kind of running around through me. But in my personal opinion, as someone who has cables and has an HTC Vive Pro on PC that has a cable and stuff, I've gotten used to that. Would I prefer wireless VR? Sure. But with all the features that I just mentioned on the PlayStation VR, with the higher fidelity games, with the FOV, with the, you know, full immersion of everything being blacked out and not having any light leakage, with the haptic controllers and all that kind of stuff, overall, I would still definitely prefer the PlayStation VR 2 and the MetaQuest 2 coming in second and third. Even though this one has a wire, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Some of you may differ on that opinion, but for me, the immersion is still a lot higher on the PlayStation VR2 than it would be on those two, whether it's wireless or not. One of the things we also got to mention when it comes to immersion is, of course, sound. Sound is a big thing about VR, and the sound quality on these are all really, really good in their own ways. Now, all of them let you plug in headphones if you want to. They all have a 3.5mm jack if you want to plug into them. The PlayStation VR2 does come with these headphones. These headphones are actually really, really nice, and I like them because they're obviously look like they're integrated into the headset because you just attach them to the top, and they kind of just dangle there, and then when you're done, you just pop them into the side here, and boom, you're kind of done, and you don't have to worry about them when you're not using them, and they're ready to go the next time you use them, and they're really good. But I still like the Pulse headphones that the PlayStation VR you wear over, and I think it fits really comfortably on my head because you do get better sound quality, but these headphones are surprisingly really good for earbuds and stuff like that. So the sound quality is really, really good on the PlayStation VR 2. When it comes to the Quest Pro and stuff, and the Quest 2, they're obviously going to be really, really close in sound quality because they all have integrated sound that kind of pipes through the side of the band, and I think they're both really, really similar. Sometimes I go back and forth. I think sometimes the Quest Pro slides a little bit better, only because it's closer to your ears, and the way that it's formed in there kind of seems to hit your ears better with the integrated sound, and it might be slightly louder in that circumstance, so maybe I'll put this one a little bit above it. But overall, they're really close to each other. And the integrated sound is fine. It sounds good, and it's great for most people when you're sharing VR and stuff. But when you're playing games like Beat Saber and stuff, you're obviously missing that bass. You're missing that higher sound. I want the games to sound louder. So I usually never use the built-in sound, even when I'm showing other people. Hence why on the Quest Pro I have these headphones that are attached to the side that make it look like a Frankenstein over here, because these sound a lot better than those. And then on the Quest Pro, I also have better sound with the Kiwi strap here that lets me listen to it. And then I have that right here. And then the sound is a lot better with these, and it gives me higher fidelity sound, whether it's higher and stuff like that. But overall, the headsets, and of course, you can obviously plug things into these the same way with the headphone jack, just like on the PSVR. So out of the box experience, I think I'd rather use the earbuds of the PlayStation VR 2 overall compared to the integrated sound that piping through on the side. Even though I'm not a big fan of earbuds being in your ears, I think it gives you better sound quality, and it sounds louder than it does on the Quest Pro and the Quest 2 here. So I'd rather use those earbuds than using the integrated sound that are piping through my ears. However, when it comes through using headphones and ease of use, I'd probably give that more towards the Quest 2 and the Quest Pro, because now I have better sound, and these are just kind of sitting on the side, and there's a lot of different options out there that people are making to put on the side. Same thing with the Quest Pro, and now this sounds a lot better and a lot closer to the, the headphones that I would use on the Pulse headphones and in my experience with the PlayStation VR 2. So then it becomes a lot closer. Then it just becomes preference on which headphones you like better at that point. But overall, like I said, the built-in headphones or earbuds that come with the PlayStation VR 2 is going to be my preferred of the three that come included in the box. But then when you start adding accessories and stuff, then that gets a little bit convoluted, because then it just depends which one you like better than others. But so this is a hard category to actually win over. But if you want, if you just count what's actually in the box, for the louder sound and the better quality, I would choose the earbuds on the PlayStation VR 2 versus the integrated sound that come in the box with the other two headsets. The next category that we're going to be talking about here is the controllers on all three of these platforms, and this is the Sense controllers for the PSVR 2. They're definitely my favorite in this category. PlayStation VR Sense controllers fit really easily into my hands, as you can see here. But what I really like about these is the strap. The strap is super, super easy to put on. When you put these Sense controllers on, if you turn your hand this way, as you can see, it strapped it on for me. And I didn't have to do anything, and now I'm ready to go. Super, super easy to get this strap tightened onto your hand, even while being in VR. It's so much easier than the Quest 2 controllers that have like the straps on there, and definitely much easier than the other controllers on the Quest Pro that we're going to talk about afterwards with the strap design. Best strap design easily PSVR by a mile. But as far as the controllers go, like we talked about already, haptic feedback on the actual trigger, the haptic feedback in the actual controller, hands down, adds better immersion, better feedback, better controls, and better feeling in playing games. And this is really, really comfortable. I don't think any of them are more comfortable than others. I think they're all comfortable in their own ways. So I don't think the comfortable is what sets these apart. It's the haptic feedback in the triggers and the haptic feedback in the controllers that makes these Sense controllers better overall, and the strap design as well makes these so much fun to use in gaming, and that's what adds to the immersion, and they're fantastic. When it comes to the Quest Pro controllers, these do offer better tracking than the PSVR. Even though I haven't had many issues with PSVR2 with tracking, these are going to track a lot more reliably overall because they have built-in processors inside, and they even have built-in cameras on the inside as well. So they're going to, you know, be a lot better in that regard when it comes to tracking compared to the PlayStation VR2. When you're doing precision games like Beat Saber and stuff like that, these are going to be a lot more reliable. But and the controllers are really comfortable in your hands and stuff like that. The haptics are definitely better than what they are on the Quest 2. That's why they're coming in second place, because they do have finer control in the haptics that you actually feel in the controllers. But they're definitely nowhere near as precise and as cool as they are in the Sense controllers on the PlayStation VR2, which is of course why these are coming in second. And we do got to talk about battery life on these as well. These are very similar to the Sense controllers. They last both about 4 to 5 hours, and that's what I get on these controllers here, and that's what I get also in the PlayStation VR2 Sense controllers as well. When it comes to the Quest 2 controllers, as you guys can see here, these are also really, really comfortable. I don't have any issues with it being comfortable, but they definitely win on battery life. Even though I'm putting these in third place, battery life on these are crazy. They last like 80 hours on a single AA battery. I don't know what kind of magic these things have, but you never hardly change these batteries. It's kind of wild. They last freaking forever. And the battery life is outstanding. But obviously, they don't have the unique features of those. The haptics are nowhere near as good as the Sense controllers, are nowhere near as good as the Pro controllers. They don't track as well as the Pro controllers because they don't have built-in cameras on them or anything like that, or built-in processors. So, of course, the battery life is going to be that much better. And for me, I'd rather make that trade-off. I'd rather use the, you know, the rechargeable controllers on the Sense controllers, or you could just plug them into a base and they're always ready to go. Same thing with the Quest Pro controllers, where it's rechargeable batteries instead of these that use a single battery. The Quest Pro controllers are rechargeable, which is another great benefit. These you actually have to plug in batteries, which is great for some people and not great for others. But for me, I'd rather make that trade-off. Those are always fully charged because I always have them on a dock anyway. So for me, the battery is never run out. I'm usually not in VR for more than 5 hours at one time anyway. So they last plenty long for me, and they give me all those extra features, which is why these come in third place. Even though the battery life is fantastic, I'd rather take the higher immersion of the other two controllers easily over the Quest 2, so these come in third place.
The next category that we're going to be talking about here is game library, and there's no doubt that the game library is definitely the best on the Meta Quest 2. I mean, and the Quest Pro, which are equally using the exact same library, and that shouldn't be a surprise to most people because it's been around for a lot longer. I mean, the Quest has been around for a while. Even the original Quest games were compatible on the Quest 2, so that library has been growing steadily. And there's a lot of games on the Meta Quest 2 that obviously have not made their way to the PlayStation VR 2, but that's not a surprise because the PlayStation VR 2 literally just released. Games like Among Us and stuff like that literally just came out, and we have to see how that happened. And there's a lot of free games on the Meta Quest store as well, like Anne Frank's House VR is a great story on retelling the Anne Frank story, you know, and the Holocaust and stuff like that, and going through and experiencing it from her eyes, going through the environments and stuff and showing, you know, where she was and stuff like that was a fantastic experience, and it's completely free. And we don't have a lot of those free experiences yet on the PlayStation VR 2. But again, these are all expected because the PlayStation VR 2 just released. So we'll have to give some time for the library to actually cook. But there's no doubt that there's hundreds more games on the Quest platform right now than there is on the PlayStation VR. We all obviously expect that library to grow. I mean, obviously, I think the PlayStation VR has a really good library for a thing that just released. We have over 40 games at launch already, even though it's just released a couple days ago, and even more to come over the next few months that we know a lot about. But one of the most disappointing things about the PlayStation VR 2 is the fact that we don't have compatible games from the original PlayStation VR with backwards compatibility, like the one you're seeing here, Astrobot, one of my favorite PlayStation VR games and one of my favorite VR games of all time. And unfortunately, it's not compatible yet on the PlayStation VR 2. Will it be later? Who knows? But backwards compatibility is not a thing because obviously they had PlayStation Move controllers back in the day and the old camera system, so games have to be updated to take advantage of it. But Sony, do your work and take your at least first-party games like Astrobot and make them compatible on the PlayStation VR 2. I don't know how this wasn't a launch day title. I have no idea. But I'm really looking forward to seeing more games released. Again, MetaQuest Pro and 2 obviously at number 1 in this category for obvious reasons, but that's a big asterisk because we know that the PlayStation VR 2 library is going to continue to grow faster and faster, and with the probability of there being a lot of first-party games like Horizon and GT7 like we got now, Resident Evil and stuff that are going to look fantastic on the PlayStation VR 2 and look a lot better than they do on the Quest platform, there is a high probability that as time goes on that the library is going to look a lot better on the PlayStation VR 2 with more expansive games, more fully featured games. But for now, MetaQuest easily takes this category, but we'll have to see what the future holds.
Alright guys, so it is time for my final thoughts on these three headsets and who I recommend to buy each one and what I come down on as someone who owns these three headsets. So starting off with the PlayStation VR, it's definitely a way better headset than the PlayStation VR 1. So if you have a PlayStation and you had your original headset was the PlayStation VR 1 and you're looking to upgrade and you're wondering if this is way better, easily a way better headset. Now, going to the second version on here, now, if you have a PlayStation 5, this is also something I would recommend for you. If you already have a PlayStation 5 and you love doing 2D games and stuff like that, then, and you want to get your feet into PlayStation VR, then this is definitely one I also recommend that you get for the PlayStation VR 2. Now, if you're someone who already owns a Meta Quest 2, and you are looking to see, or a Quest Pro, and you're looking to see, hey, is the PlayStation VR 2 that much better of an experience, then that's where things get, we have to, add some things into that. So, if you have a Meta Quest 2 or a Meta Quest Pro, and you only play wireless VR, you don't have a PC VR to, do streaming on with virtual desktop, or, plugging in a cable to your Quest 2 to use Oculus Link and all that kind of stuff, and you don't have that, and all you do is play wireless VR, and that's the only way that you play because you don't have a powerful gaming PC, then I absolutely think you should get the PlayStation VR 2 because you're going to notice a lot better quality in games. I mean, the games are going to be much more graphic intensive. You're going to have all the benefits of the controllers that we talked about with the haptic feedback and all that stuff, and you're going to have a way better experience, and you're going to come from the Quest and you're going to be like, yeah, this is definitely way better, and it is a much better upgrade from the Meta Quest 2. So coming from the Meta Quest 2 without counting PC VR, going to the PSVR 2, easily worth the upgrade in my opinion if you're into VR like I am. Same thing with the Quest Pro because all of that still same applies. Now, if you're somebody who has a Quest 2 and you have a Quest Pro and you also use it for PC VR because you have a powerful PC as well, then recommending the PSVR 2 right now is a little bit harder because obviously now you have already experienced a lot of the PC VR titles that are coming and you have already experienced that high fidelity, and now getting a PlayStation VR 2 really comes down to what additional features it offers. And what it really offers you is the eye tracking, which I think is really, really awesome, in my opinion. I think it looks, there's a lot of things that developers can work on with that, and since everybody has it, developers will actually put their time into it. Doing things like what Firewall Ultra is doing, where you can just select a menu when you pick a gun. When that game comes out is cool. Switchback VR, when you blink, it kind of scares you and things move around. Great for horror games and stuff like that, so that's going to be really, really cool. And then there's also the library of games that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else. So some exclusives already announced, like Switchback VR, like Horizon, like GT7. You're going to get those PlayStation exclusives that you're not going to get anywhere else, even on the PC platform as we know of right now. So that's another incentive as well. If you care about that and you're really into the VR ecosystem and you want to not miss any of the exclusives, then that would still lead you in that direction. And then, of course, you have the haptic feedback so you don't get when you plug in these two Meta Quest and Meta Quest 2 and the Quest Pro, that you're not going to get if you plug it into a PC VR headset or a PC VR computer, when you're using things like the rumble and the headset, which is really cool in games that they're using it. When you have the haptic feedback and the triggers and stuff like that, all of that adds more to the immersion. The bigger FOV, all of that adds into the immersion. So you're going to have to take all this information I'm giving you and take that into account if it's worth it to you. A lot of the PlayStation 5 games that have come out so far are either equally as impressive graphically like Kayak VR as they are on PC, but of course as we get further down the line, the PC is always going to pull away a little bit and the PlayStation 5 will, kind of be left behind as that straddles the line. PlayStation 5 looks outstanding either way, and in my personal opinion, if I was judging it off of that, I would still choose a PlayStation VR headset. I'm not going to be playing, if a game releases side to side, for example, on the Meta Quest 2 and on the PlayStation 5, I'd easily choose that game on the PlayStation 5 because of all the features it has and the better high fidelity graphics. If the game is on Steam VR and am I gonna use the Meta Quest 2 and use a virtual desktop or use a Oculus Link or use my PlayStation 5? I am, for the time being, for a while, going to be choosing the PlayStation 5 version because the graphics are going to be either on par or really close, and I'm going to get all the additional features of the OLED display and the controllers and all that stuff that we talked about on the PlayStation 5 side, so I'd rather play it on there over my Steam VR because virtual desktop wireless VR is great, but there's going to be compression. It's not going to be as stable and stuff. Even if you connect a cable to it and use Oculus Link, the compression's still going to be there, so you're still going to get some artifacts and stuff, so I'd still rather play it on the PlayStation 5, in my opinion, when I'm comparing these three headsets around. But it is going to be really close. And obviously, if you don't have a PlayStation 5 at all, and you're just a VR enthusiast, Now you're talking about spending over $1,000, and you already have a Quest 2, you already have a PCVR. Then this probably might not be for you unless if you're really that invested into VR, because you're getting a really good experience already and a really close experience to the PlayStation VR ecosystem that's offering right now compared to what you're just using on the PC VR. So again, you're going to have to take all this information and kind of make the best decision that's for you, because that's going to become a lot harder to decide if you have a PC VR already, if you still want to spend the extra money on the PlayStation VR. Again, if this were up to me and I took all the headsets into the account, what I'm going to use each one for, PlayStation VR is going to be the one that I stick on top, and I'm going to be using anytime the game releases on that platform. I will get that game on that platform if it's released multi-platform for the time being, because of all the additional features, because of the display and all that stuff. If I'm talking about social apps, if I'm talking about video apps, things like big screen, things like social applications like other games that are on there like Horizon and stuff like that, even if they release multi-platform, I would choose the MetaQuest Pro because it has the facial features, it has the eye tracking, easily can put it on. It's really comfortable, don't have to have any side blockers, really easy, to get into those social apps, and it's wireless, so I can just kind of sit back. The resolution is almost the same. The pancake lenses definitely give better clarity over the PlayStation VR 2. There's definitely, even though the OLED displays are better on the PlayStation VR 2, there's still something called Mirror that's on there that some people will notice more than others. That is a thing of OLEDs that you can't really do anything else about. But on the PlayStation VR 2, it kind of has like this, almost like a film texture grain type of thing, and it's really apparent when it's like, the game that I've noticed it in the most is Kayak VR, because it has like, especially in the dark scenes where you kind of notice it and stuff. So it kind of has like this hazel, like film texture look that people are going to notice and be like, what is that? It's from the OLED technology. So if I was comparing it to the Quest Pro, the lenses are definitely better on the Quest Pro. So if I'm playing social applications, or if I'm playing different games that, require fast movement and stuff like that, I'd rather play it on the Quest Pro, because I can sit back on wireless VR and I can go ahead and watch things like big screen, and the resolution's almost the same. The pancake lenses are better. I can watch a movie upstairs, take it wirelessly, not have to worry about being straddled to my PS5. So I'm going to use my Quest Pro for all of those types of applications. And then when it comes to full-on immersion games like Horizon and all that stuff, or third-party games that are releasing on both platforms, I'll stick with the PlayStation 5 because the higher fidelity graphics, and because of the controllers, and because of the headset haptics and the adaptive triggers. So there's that. So the MetaQuest 2 is kind of going to be sitting on the side for me. Maybe when other people come over and I want to use, want to play games against each other in the same household. If I have friends and stuff and we want to play the same game, then maybe that's when I bring out the MetaQuest 2. But for me, the MetaQuest 2 is kind of just going to sit on the shelf for the time being until the MetaQuest 3 arrives and we see what that does. Because high fidelity gaming, I'll use the PlayStation 5. Quest Pro for everything else, for social applications and stuff, is where I'm going to lean to there. So what's left is, if I ever want to do PC VR and for some reason it's not released on the PlayStation 5 and it's not released on the MetaQuest Pro, and I want to get the full high fidelity graphics, then I'll use my HTC Vive Pro 2, play it on Steam VR, and do that and get that experience. So obviously that's totes the line for me, so that's coming from me only. You guys may not have all those options, but overall, comparing these three headsets, again, for gamers, if you just care about games and you have a PlayStation 5, choose the PSVR 2. If you just care about games and you only care about, that. But if you care about value and pricing and stuff like that, of course, the MetaQuest 2 is going to be only $400 to $500. That's going to be a lot cheaper if you don't have a PlayStation 5 already. The Quest Pro is obviously really expensive and not really meant for gaming. It's over $1,000. So that's not meant for really most people. So for gamers, Quest Pro 2 at $400 or $500 is a crazy value, but if you already have a PlayStation 5, I think as a category of games grow, I think as gamers, most people should choose the PlayStation VR 2. And that's how I kind of rank these games for these headsets for you guys. If you are a gamer and you have a PlayStation 5, choose a PSVR 2. You're going to have a fantastic time with it. If you don't have a PlayStation 5 and you're just buying it for VR, then maybe the MetaQuest 2 may be for you, or wait for the MetaQuest 3 because the library is bigger. You're getting a lot of the same games and stuff like that are on the PlayStation VR 2, and it's going to be, hard to make up that value if you're just buying a PlayStation 5 and you're never going to play pancake games and you're just going to use a PSVR 2. Maybe wait for the MetaQuest 3 or get a MetaQuest 2 at the cheap right now, get it used, get into VR, have a great time, and see how the PlayStation library develops. See if you have games that are interested in just for you. If you see that library grow and you see exclusives that are on there you really want to play, go ahead and get that PlayStation 5. Play some 2D games. Experience the PlayStation 5 VR headset and get in there. But for me, I'm obviously fortunate enough to have experience on all of these headsets, and I'll be using them all for a variety of different reasons, as the time progresses. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know this was a lot of information, a really long video. I hope you guys got a lot out of this, and you can see how these headsets compare. If you guys have any questions about anything that I put in this video, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.